So now that we've merged our building model with our site model, I realize we want to make a little bit of a change to the model. If you notice at the front of the stall house, there's actually a little walkout here. One of the things you can see from the images, and I think probably this one shows it the best, is on the right side of that front view, there's actually an opportunity to open the glass door and walk out onto the site and engage the site, which is really kind of cool. I think we definitely want to take advantage of that. You can also start to see it in some of the other images on the other sides, where you can see here is that walkway in the back side. So we didn't have that in the model. One of the things that we did in the model, though, is we created a really nice flat site plan. So what we're going to do is, like I said, I have multiple SketchUp windows open. If you don't, you can close this one after you save it and go back. But I'm going to go back to my enclosure model that doesn't have the site. It's going to be a lot easier to work in. And I'm going to simply make that change. So about halfway through the model, I'm going to open the component that I've made for the floor. And I'm going to draw just a line from the midpoint, and I'm going to push it out 10 feet and create a little landing area for that walkout. Now, one of the things that's kind of important to notice is when we get into the site modeling, the floor needs to be very simple and very clean. I have no lines, no interruptions, no penetrations. We have some AutoCAD line work that does some goofy stuff. But otherwise, the base of the house is a nice flat platform. That is going to be very important when we get into stamping the site. Now that I've done this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to click File and I'm going to save it. And then when it's done saving, we're going to go ahead and return to the model that we're using to have the site included in it. So I'm going to hover down here and click back on my site model. And you notice nothing changed with the building. The great thing about SketchUp is that it allows me to link the building model with an overall or a site model, and that's what we're going to do. So since this is a component, do not explode this one. We're not going to work on it in here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to simply reload it. And it'll allow me to reload from the same folder. You want to keep these in the same folder, and I'm going to click Open. And as you see, that reloads, it updated the model to match the change that I just made. So now that we've done that, we're going to take advantage of the stamp tool. For this one, I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn my perspective back on, just because I kind of like working in my perspective. So this button here is called the stamp. And what it will do is it will allow you to find a footprint of a building and stamp it into a site, which is exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to click Stamp. And then I'm going to select the model. And it may do some weird things for you here. You can see my cursor's flickering. My screen at school goes black when I do this because it thinks about it. And once it analyzes the model, it finds the base of that model and turns it red. So we're going to go ahead and it looks like it's pretty accurate. And the next step of the stamp is I'm going to select the site. And from there, you can see that what it does is it basically creates a small platform for me to put my building on. So I'm hovering around in this model because the back is a little bit steep. The easiest thing for us to do is to try to go ahead and just elevate it just above the back side of the building. And I'm going to make sure that, notice I have a light gray mark in the top. That means it's not quite flat. So I'm going to go up until I get a nice solid gray top, and then I'm going to lock my base down. And then from there, what we can do is we can drop our building right onto that little platform. And now we're starting to get geometry that looks much more similar to what we're dealing with the stall house. Now notice I do have a little bit of a goofy gap over here on this side. I'm going to open up the model of the site and see if I can't just close that in, if it's not possible for me to just infill it. Sometimes the triangulation is not exactly perfect for the site plan. So I'm just going to triangulate and then infill those little pieces. And there we go. And we will add a lot of information to the site later. I'll reverse these so they look a little bit better. And once we're set there, we can clean up the site just a little bit. And we should be fairly well set. And now we're actually starting to really get a sense of how this stall house is fitting into the site plan. And in a little bit, we'll start adding textures and materials, and we will put the swimming pool in, the key feature of the swimming pool. Before I get too far, I want to make sure I go ahead and go to File and Save, and we will save the combination file.